Well, Derek, thanks for doing this. Thanks for letting me interview you because I've been waiting for this for this moment for a long time. So I'm really happy to be interviewing you for the Practive Magazine number 30. So it's a round number, and we have Derek Sivers here on the line from a hotel room somewhere in New Zealand.
Yep. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I'm a fan of what you're doing, and thanks for being patient. And I'm glad we're finally talking.
Yeah, it's so good. So, Derek, before we start, can you just quickly introduce yourself to everyone, if in case somebody doesn't know you or something?
Yep. My name's Derek Sivers. Where should I start? I was really a professional musician for many years, all the way from the age of 15 until 30. Really, my full-time living was making music. I was producing people's records, going on tour. I actually bought a house with the money I made touring. But then around that time, I was trying to sell my CD online, and there was no good website to do it. Nobody would sell your CD for you back in 1998, the old days,
Yeah, right.
before PayPal, before Amazon, before all this stuff. So I created a little website that at first was just to sell my music and then some of my friends. But then friends told friends, and it became the largest seller of independent music on the web, with something like 250,000 musicians. And then in 2008, I sold that company. And since then, I've been writing books, speaking at TED, and working on some new stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of story I love because it's okay. So I'll be honest here. The thing is that we will be we are. Unknowingly, I'm really following kind of your footsteps in the same way because I created my company the same way because to scratch my own itch because I needed to do something that wasn't there and I wanted to solve my own problem. And 8 years, fast forward 8 years, I'm still solving my own problems. So it's and there are thousands of users who are also using my solution. So I really like this idea that you do something else. First for yourself, and then suddenly it becomes a business.
It's coming from such a better place than when I get lots of people that contact me saying, hey, I've got this idea for a business. I think it could make a lot of money. And it's always tough because then it feels like the only reason you're doing this is to make money. Whereas if you're doing something to scratch your own itch, and ideally something that is very concretely helping some people,
Yeah,
and it's standing on more solid ground than something that you're just doing because you think it might make some money. It's money is best as a side effect
yeah,
of something you're doing. I often think of it as the odometer in a car, the thing that reads out how many kilometers you've driven.
right.
It's like that. It's the whole point of driving is not to make that number go up. That's just a side effect that happens when you are out in the world seeing lots of cool things.
Exactly. So and enjoying the sights and enjoying the views and enjoying the road trip, right? Exactly. So let's so I read your book a while ago when it was launched as a domino project, the book Anything You Want. And now, because I'm interviewing you, I had to read it again. I really can relate to the story. But what drove you to finally sell the business? In 2008. Why did you? Because it was as I was reading, you had all these bumps, in the road, and it was doing great. And what drove you finally to sell the business and do something else and do what you're doing right now?
I actually cut a couple chapters from that book because they sounded too nasty.
Oh.
But it got really bad at the end for me on a personal level. Some things went really wrong inside the company that changed the culture of the company. And at the time, it's just kind of the relations between me and the employees just turned really bad. And it was actually really nice. Just a few months ago, I got an email from one of my old employees that I haven't spoken with any of them in years. And I got an email from this guy, and he said, hey, Derek, I don't know if you remember me, but I was one of your employees at CD Baby. And he said, I'm a guitar teacher now, and I'm actually managing a music store with a few other guitar teachers. And he said, now that I'm managing other people, he said, I realize what you must have had to go through with us. And he said, I'm so sorry that we treated you like that. He said, I don't know what happened that we suddenly decided to blame you for all of our problems. He said, we were really mean to you, and I'm really sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, they were really mean to me. And it,
Oh.
it just got really bad that I hated it. And since I was always doing this for love, not money, I didn't love it anymore. And then I just had to ask myself, like, why am I even doing this? This sucks. And I don't need the money, and I'm not having fun anymore. So what am I doing? And so that was most of the reason I sold. But the other reason is I think there are a lot of similarities between business and art.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing it like you and I are doing, where you create something just because you want it to exist. You're not doing this just for the money. You don't have investors and shareholders, and you're not doing an IPO and trying to please the stock market. You're doing it just because this is an idea you had and you want to turn this idea into reality, right? So in the art comparison, there is a point when your art feels done, right? Like,
okay, all right.
It felt like I had finished that painting that I set out to paint years ago. I got CD Baby to the point where I had just rewritten all the software. I had just improved it. I had just made all of the changes I wanted to make. It was running really well. And I just felt like, that's it. I'm done. Like, I could do more to it, but there's nothing I'm dying to add. And it feels like,
all right.
Yeah, there was nothing more to say. It felt like a finished painting for me. But yet I knew that for somebody else, it was the beginning of something, and so it felt like I was actually doing my clients a disservice
Mm-hmm.
by remaining the boss of something that I felt was done.
All right.
You know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, mm-hmm. I think I'm asking because, for example, in my case, it's still an unfinished painting. I still feel like I'm just getting started. So, but you're right. But what you scratched on, and what I wanted to highlight here, and what you're writing in the book, is that when you create a business like this, like we do, like scratch your own itch, something you want to serve people, you want to make a change in in the small universe you can change, and you put it like your business is like your unicorn land. Like your paradise. I mean, this is your reality, and you create the reality. So I really like this thing because then you, as you said, you don't please the investors, you please your customers, and you please yourself and your team. So the rules you set out are the rules that you want to have, and it just reminded me of a thing we did like 2 days ago when somebody didn't agree with the policy that we introduced, and then I said, let's change the policy. It's our company. We can change the policy. We can, right?
That's awesome. Love it.
I mean, this is what you stand for, right? I mean, that we create this reality and we can, shape it the way we want it, right?
That's so cool. That's such a great example. We always think of policies as something like, well, sorry, there's nothing we can do. That's a policy. That's great. You say, all right, sorry, if that's not working for you, let's update the policy. That's so cool, man.
Exactly. And the thing is that I'm trying to encourage my team to do the same. I mean, I'm telling them, guys, I mean, we shape the company, not me. I'm the owner of the company, but it's our company. So, if you don't like something, let's change it. Let's make it different. I like this fact that what you're saying. Your own land that you create, and it just depends on you.
Yeah, cool. I love that.
Yeah. So and then the other thing is that you sold the CD Baby and you gave away the money or to charity or something like that, right? Why would you do that?
Yeah. I wasn't going to tell anybody. It was going to be a secret.
Okay,
and
let's tell soon.
Oh, no, it's too late now. It was going to be a secret, but then about a year after I sold the company, somebody was interviewing me, and it was it was like some obscure podcast, and we were like 45 minutes into the interview,
All right.
and he said something like, "So what did you do with the money? Or you must be rolling in the money now." And I said, "Actually, no, I gave it away." And he said, "Wait, what do you mean you gave it away?" I said, "Nah, never. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. It's a technicality." And he said, "No, hold on. I want to ask you about this." And I was like, okay. So the deal is, I had to get kind of philosophical. There was 8 months in between the time when I decided to sell the company and when it was all done. And so during those 8 months, I talked with my lawyer a lot, and he has like a finance background, and he knew some stuff. And he was a good guy. I've known him for years, and we were friends. So I mentioned to him, I said, this is kind of weird for me because like I don't even want the money. Like, what am I going to do with $22 million? I was not in debt. CD Baby had been profitable for years. So it's not like one of those Silicon Valley companies that has no profits but then sells for a lot of money. Like, it was profitable. Like, I was making about $4 million a year for a few years before I sold the company. So I had everything I wanted. I had a car. I had already like given my parents money. There was nothing I wanted to buy. And so I thought like, wow, $22 million. What am I going to do with that? And I said, honestly, I'm probably just going to give it away. Like, I'm just going to give it all to charity. And so my lawyer is the one that said, are you serious about that? I said, yeah, well, I'm not going to spend $22 million in my life. Therefore, I'm just going to give it all away to charity. He said, well, if you're really serious about this, like if you're really going to give it all away anyway, then the smarter way to structure it is instead of you, it goes like this. I don't know if it's, the same tax laws everywhere in the world, but I think it's pretty generic. He said, instead of you getting $22 million and then paying all of your income tax on the $22 million, and you'll be left with $15 million, and then you give away $15 million to charity. He said, instead, we can transfer the ownership of the company into a charity now, so that when this company buys CD Baby, they're not buying it from you, they're buying it from the charity. So that way the entire $22 million goes into charity, tax-free. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want. He said, are you sure about this? Like, you want to give away your company to a charity entirely, 100% right now? I said, yep. So that's what we did.
That's really cool. That's really something. And as you said, you didn't do it for the money anyway. So it was like when I'm. So one of the things I'm also trying to. So I'm gonna say this here as well, because I'm always trying to highlight this also to my team and to people who are reading my blog and what I'm doing is that. For example, in my case, what I do is like I have right now with every month we're profitable. So every month I have to pay the income tax. So I'm paying the income tax, but then I have an Excel spreadsheet, actually number spreadsheet, where I divide the income tax, and then there's a percentage that goes to charity as well. So there is a percentage, and it's fixed percentage. So every time if I earn more money, I pay more tax, and then I have to pay more to this charity account. So I, like every month I'm giving this money to this additional account, and it's already there. And right now I have to figure out how to use it for charity, but it's not mine. I mean, I'm already separate mentally from this money because it's in a different account. So in this way, the money is already gone to the charitable endeavors. And we'll see what we'll do about it. But again, it's not my money anymore. It's on a different account. I'm already parted with the money. So I'm trying to encourage people to do the same, like to keep when they pay their income tax, they should put something for children, for their education, and something for the for charity. And because if we are supposed to teach our children to be charitable, we should do it ourselves before we start preaching it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. I love that. It's a nice way to do it. I like that.
It's a smaller contribution than your $22 million, but anyway, it's a contribution anyway. So so now apart from best-selling book and then TED Talks, which we'll try to link in the magazine. What else are you doing? I heard about this Woo Deck project.
Yeah, Wood Egg is, I think it's just my book publishing company now. When I started it 3 years ago, I was living in Singapore, and I used it to produce a series of books about the different countries in Asia and learning about the
Right.
cultures. It was really a way, again, scratching my own itch. I wanted to learn about all of these countries because this was my new home. So, so I did this as a way of learning. The books didn't sell very well,
Hmm.
so that's okay. I wasn't doing it to make money. So now Wood Egg is just now it's more of like my generic publishing company for
Hmm.
whatever I'm going to be publishing in the future. But yeah, I have a few other projects that are coming up
Hmm.
that I'm not being secretive. It's not worth talking about yet since they're not done yet.
All
So
right.
there's nothing. It may change a lot before they're finished, but I'm spending most of my time doing all the computer programming for that and
Uh-huh.
just doing lots of writing for future books.
Yeah, and so you still do programming, right?
Yeah, I love it. It's very peaceful to me. I think even when I was a kid, I liked doing math problems
Hmm.
because the rest of the world is crazy, but I like that math has a right answer. And so I think for that same reason, I noticed that whenever the world feels crazy and say like I'm, having, say like fighting with people or something like that, uh, programming just feels like such wonderful solace. I'm like, programming. It just makes me so happy. I love it. So it's more like my favorite hobby. I don't want to pay someone else to do it because I just enjoy it too much.
Well, I do it differently because I don't program anymore because I'm trying to run the business and I have programmers. But every now and then I do some scripting, I do some, I go back, as you said, it's for me, it's like Lego, but on the screen,
Uh-huh.
So
Yes.
so you can build something, for fun and, and start something, deep. And so I do some scripts like that. Like I still, I don't have so much time for that. But as you said, it just brings me also back a bit peace and a bit of this Lego, fun. So I
Yeah.
go back to it. I go back to it. I don't commit code to our main application because then I would just spoil the thing. But like the additional stuff, I sometimes do. And then when there is when we explore something and it looks, it could be something, then I just give it away to my CTO, and then he already laughs at me and then starts the real programming.
Nice. I love it. Cool.
I remember that there was back way back when I was starting Nosby one, there was a story of you trying to write everything to Ruby, and then you decided to cancel and throw away the code. Tell me the story because it was really a cool story.
Oh, that was actually I love Ruby. The thing that never worked for me very well was Rails.
Right.
So I love the Ruby programming language. The Rails framework was just never quite right for me for what I wanted to do. And so yeah, I spent CD Baby started in PHP because it started in 1998, and that's
Yeah, and that
just,
was
that was the big thing at the time.
yep.
And then in 2004 when Rails started, at first I thought this is perfect for us.
Hmm.
And I got very involved for 2 years of converting everything from PHP to Rails. And then after 2 years, it felt like, no, this isn't worth all of the effort. Um, all of our code was still in PHP, and it was just so many moving parts. And I just felt like instead, I used what I learned from Rails, because Rails is beautifully written and
Yep.
it has wonderful, we call it like norms,
Yeah.
ways of doing things. It says,
This model view controller, how they treat it, all these things, right?
conventions. Yeah, they
Conventions.
call
Yeah.
them conventions.
Yeah.
It has beautiful conventions. So instead, I took what I had learned from Rails and I rewrote CD Baby from scratch in PHP. And I still think it's one of the most beautiful things I ever programmed was my rewrite of CD Baby in PHP before I sold the company. It turned out really nice. And what's funny is just about exactly 1 year after I sold the company, the purchasing company threw it all away and they rewrote it all in Windows ASP.
Well,
So
not your baby
that
anymore.
was
So yeah, but but I had a similar thing, because that's why I wanted to ask you about this, because I had a similar thing. I didn't even try to learn Ruby, but what I did was, when Rails was taking off, at the time I was trying to write Nozbe. I didn't have. I thought I didn't have time to learn Ruby. I just watched presentations about Ruby and about conventions in Ruby, and this also made my PHP programming better. Just like in your case, I rewrote the first version of Nozbe. Also, I wrote it in a more Ruby kind of, Rails kind of way. So and still until today, some of the code is still running on our servers. Some of the code that I wrote 8 years ago. So it's pretty solid then, in this sense. So so when you have right now, when you have all these different things and different endeavors going on, how do you prioritize? How do you manage your productivity, your daily any routines or habits that you have that you might want to share with our readers?
I don't know if my advice would be very useful, because I'm feeling a little bit retired, in the sense that it's the wrong word, but I'm doing things just for fun now, where like if I was very focused on getting something done and launched and hurry up and let's get this and launched, I would be doing things in a very different way. But instead, I'm feeling very, leisurely, and I'm exploring things. So in 2008, I came up with this idea for my next business called Muckwork. And I've rewritten Muckwork like 5 different times, but I've enjoyed it every time. I'm kind of like the guy that, has an old Corvette in his garage, and he keeps taking it apart and putting it back together and taking it apart and putting it back together. I'm really enjoying it. So, I think I learned a lot about Ruby by rewriting Muckwork in Ruby, and then I decided to rewrite it all in JavaScript, and I did that for 2 whole years before I said, no, I don't like it in JavaScript. And then I put a lot of the functionality directly into the PostgreSQL database, and I just blogged about that recently, and that was a lot of fun. I'm liking this way of doing things so far. So it may be done soon, but it may not. I don't know. I kind of feel like if you're looking for tips about productivity, you should not ask me.
All right. So, but how about your French? You said you were studying French.
Even that's not going well. I do it sometimes, but then I realize that I get so. Maybe if there's one lesson to learn from my experience, it's that some people have different habitual styles. So my friend Tynan, for example, is really into habits. He has daily habits every day, and he wrote a book about it called Superhero Habits, or How to Be a Superhero, I think. His name is Tynan, Tynan. Right. It's a great book. So if you want to learn about habits, I highly recommend Tynan's book about habits. And I'm sorry, I forget the
no, we'll check it out. We'll
title
put
right
the link
now.
In the
cool,
interview.
Thank you. So he's into doing things in a way that every single day he will do this thing for 30 minutes and this thing for 1 hour and this thing for 1 hour and this thing for 20 minutes. And he's very comfortable with that. That works for him. For me, I've tried that a few times, but I tend to get really, really into one thing at a time. All right. And I get so lost in it that I will do this one thing from 6 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week for many, many months. And then I finish it. And then I want to do something else. Sorry, 1 second. All right. So, yeah, for productivity, I wouldn't recommend my way of doing things unless if you find that way really works for you. I think that some of us maybe we feel that we should be living with habits, but actually we really like doing one thing at a time. So yeah, I was trying to, it is on my site that I'm studying French, but I was trying to do it an hour a day and then figured out that I think I'm just going to finish my writing and programming first, and then I'll focus on my French.
Or you just move to France, and then you have to
move to France. Do it all at once. Do it entirely.
Just go there. So why New Zealand right now?
Ah, good place to raise a kid.
All right.
Very, very peaceful, very natural, very, yeah, it's just a beautiful country. I really love it here. I was living in Singapore for a few years, and New Zealand is the opposite of Singapore. So it's what I needed now. After a few more years, we'll do something else.
All right, all right. Now, and yeah, well, I haven't been to Singapore. I've been, we've been to Asia. I've been to Japan and Korea, which I really loved both places, and my application is quite popular in Japan. But I would love to visit, Australia or New Zealand at some point because, as I heard lots of good things about them, and I've watched the of course the Hobbits and stuff. So
it really does look like that.
I'm sure it does. So I don't want to take more of your time. I want to let you do what you do. Just the last part. You on TED you talk about leadership, about dancing and stuff. So tell me what it means to be a leader. So let's just focus on that. What do you think? What it takes to be a leader?
I wish I knew. Sorry, that TED Talk. I actually don't know much about leadership. I really only read 2 or 3 books about it.
Well, you've been leading a company for 4 years, so I mean, you should know something.
I guess I was, but maybe I was a pretty bad leader. But I saw this video of a dancing guy, and I thought it was an interesting metaphor for leadership. So the funny thing about TED is I gave that talk to a room of only, I don't know, 150 people, and I didn't think that anybody outside those 150 would ever hear it. But then it got on the TED.com website, and now it has 10 million views or something. But I actually don't know much about leadership. That I gave that talk, and I think immediately at that conference, 3 or 4 book publishers came up to me and said, like, "We want to turn this into a book. Can we talk about this?" And I said, "No, I don't have anything more to say about it. I'm sorry. I'm not ready to stop what I'm doing and suddenly become some kind of consultant on the subject of leadership. So I'm really sorry I don't have any more insights for you about leadership."
Well, we'll link to the TED Talk anyway, so we'll increase the downloads of the.
That's all I have to say. It's all right there. I don't know anything else.
Leadership advice from Derek. Just watch the video, watch him dancing. You should know. So, so perfect, Derek. I love your enthusiasm. I love what you do. Thanks for writing the Anything You Want book, because I think right now, reading it second time, there are other things that I picked up from this book. So it's I like what you stand for this thing that we create our reality. We create what we want, and we do things for love. And I mean, you're an artist. Do you still play?
Oh yeah. It's all art, whether it's making music or making computer code or making books, it's all just art.
Yeah. So Derek, thank you so much. We'll link to your blog and to everything, to the books and everything else we discussed in the magazine. We'll let you know when it's published. So thank you so much for being here for Practice Magazine.
Thanks, Michael. And hey, any of your readers that made it all the way to the end of this interview, I actually enjoy putting aside a little time each day to answer questions from people by email. So feel free to put my email address here, derek@sivers.org. And anybody feel free to send me a little email and ask me anything. I'm happy to help.
Perfect. So we'll put also the email, and it's going to be here also on the video. So ask Derek things, and and follow your heart for your passion, and just create stuff. Right?
Well, thanks, Michael. I appreciate it.